You ever think about all the things you wish you had said but never did?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I
Mm,
mean, who hasn't?
like those moments where, the words are right there, but something stops you?
Yeah, like maybe you are afraid of how the other person will react, or you just don't want to make yourself vulnerable.
Exactly, like that fear of rejection or, maybe just not wanting to rock the boat.
Uh-huh. Sometimes it's pride too, like thinking you are too cool to express your true feelings.
Right. Or maybe you just miss the moment and then it feels like it's too late.
And then you just keep replaying the scenario in your head over and over again, thinking about what you should have said.
And that's exactly what we are diving into today, the whole idea of unsent letters, the things we wish we could say but never do.
Yeah, and to really get into that, we're going to be looking at the unsent letters, things I wish I could say, but never did.
It's a book by David Adu, and it is just what it sounds like, a collection of letters he's written but never actually sent.
And they are powerful stuff. He really gets into the nitty-gritty of regret and missed opportunities and the things he's learned from it all.
And it really makes you think about your own life, like how many of us are carrying around our own unsent letters?
Oh, tons, I'm sure. We'll probably all have a whole stack of them.
So that's what we are doing today, exploring this idea of unsent letters through Adu's experiences and, maybe see what we can all learn from it.
Sounds like a plan.
So let's jump right in. One thing that really struck me in Adu's book was how he talks about the weight of silence.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. He really challenges the idea that staying silent means you are strong or in control.
Right. He describes it more like a burden,
Yeah.
like something that's weighing you down.
Or even like being trapped in a prison of your own making.
That's such a powerful image. And he talks about all the mental energy we waste on those conversations we have in our heads.
Like rehearsing what we should have said or could have said.
And it just keeps us stuck in the past,
And
instead of moving forward.
and the thing is, our brains are wired to want to tie up loose ends. So when something is left unsaid, it can really bug us.
Which leads perfectly into the next big theme, regret and missed opportunities.
Yeah, that's a big one. And it's really front and center in the letter to the one I let go.
That letter is so raw and honest. It's clear that Adu is still carrying a lot of pain from that lost relationship.
And he really blames himself.
Yeah.
He admits that he let pride and fear get in the way of expressing his true feelings.
And he comes to this heartbreaking realization that love should never go unspoken.
Which is so true, but sometimes hard to remember in the moment.
Absolutely. We can get so caught up in our own insecurities and anxieties that we forget to just say the important things.
Yeah, like what if they don't feel the same way, or what if it messes things up?
But as Adu points out, those fears can end up causing even more pain in the long run.
Because then you are left with the what ifs. The constant wondering of what could have been.
And that really ties into his final thoughts at the end of the book. He talks about how fleeting opportunities can be.
Like they're here one minute and gone the next.
And he emphasizes that we need to speak up before it's too late.
Because we never know when that chance will disappear.
It's a really powerful reminder to seize the moment.
Right.
Don't wait for the perfect time because it might never come.
Absolutely. Carpe diem, right?
Now, another letter that really got to me was, "Dear Father, why did you leave?"
Yeah, that one is tough. It's a really personal and vulnerable look at the impact of absence.
Adu talks about growing up without his father and all the questions he had.
Like, why did he leave? Did he not love him? Did he do something wrong?
And that lack of answers really messed with his sense of self-worth.
Like maybe he wasn't good enough or lovable enough to make his father stay.
And that kind of thinking can be so damaging, especially for a young person.
It can really shape how you see yourself and the world around you.
But what I found so inspiring was how Adu eventually shifted his perspective.
Yeah, instead of blaming himself, he came to realize that his father's leaving was more about his father's own struggles.
Exactly. It wasn't personal. His father had his own battles he was fighting.
And sometimes people leave, not because of anything we did, but because of their own stuff.
And that realization was really healing for Adu. It allowed him to let go of some of that self-blame.
And to start focusing on his own journey,
Yeah.
instead of being defined by his father's absence.
Which is such a powerful message for anyone who's dealing with similar feelings of abandonment.
It's about taking back your power and refusing to let the past dictate your future.
Now, on a slightly different note, there's also a letter in the book called A Letter to My Younger Self.
Oh yeah, that one is full of good stuff. It's all about self-compassion and learning from our mistakes.
Adu talks about how he used to beat himself up over his failures.
Like he wasn't good enough or smart enough or whatever,
And he saw pain as a punishment for not being perfect.
which is something I think a lot of us can relate to.
Absolutely. But over time, He started to see things differently.
He realized that pain is just part of life. It's not a sign that we are bad or unworthy.
And that failures are actually opportunities for growth.
Like they're not the end of the story. They're just stepping stones on the path to becoming who we are meant to be.
I love that. And he also talks about the importance of not taking things personally.
Meaning that other people's actions and opinions are not always a reflection of our own worth.
Exactly. Like just because someone rejects us or criticizes us doesn't mean we are fundamentally flawed.
It's more about them and their own stuff.
And that's such a freeing realization, you know?
It takes a lot of pressure off and allows us to be more compassionate towards ourselves.
And throughout the letter, he keeps coming back to this message of, you are enough.
Which is so important to remember, especially when we are feeling down on ourselves.
It's a reminder that we are worthy of love and belonging just as we are.
Without needing to change or prove ourselves to anyone.
Now, another heavy topic that Adu tackles is forgiveness, specifically in the letter to the friend who betrayed me.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Betrayal can be so painful, and it's natural to want to hold on to anger and resentment.
But what Adu realized is that holding on to that anger was actually hurting him more than the person who betrayed him.
It was eating him up inside. You know, poisoning his thoughts and feelings.
And he came to see that forgiveness wasn't about letting the other person off the hook.
It was about freeing himself from the burden of that anger and resentment.
It was about choosing to move on and reclaim his own peace of mind.
Which is so powerful, because ultimately forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves.
It's about letting go of the past so we can create a brighter future.
And it doesn't mean we condone the other person's actions or forget what happened.
It's about choosing to focus on our own healing and well-being.
And breaking free from that cycle of pain and bitterness.
Now, on a later note, there's a letter in the book called To the Stranger Who Showed Me Kindness.
Oh yeah, that one is really sweet. It's a reminder that even small acts of kindness can have a huge impact.
Adu talks about a time when he was feeling really down and a stranger did something simple but kind for him.
It wasn't anything major, you know, just a kind word or a helping hand.
But it made all the difference in that moment.
It made him feel seen and cared for.
And it restored his faith in humanity.
Which is so important, because sometimes we can lose sight of the good in the world.
And it's easy to get cynical and jaded.
But this letter reminds us that there are still good people out there.
And that even the smallest gestures can brighten someone's day.
And create a ripple effect of positivity.
So never underestimate the power of kindness, you know?
It might seem small to you, but it could mean the world to someone else.
And finally, we have the letter to my future self.
Which is a really interesting concept. You know, like writing a letter to the person you hope to become.
And in this letter, Adu expresses his hopes and dreams for the future.
He talks about wanting to be successful and fulfilled.
But more importantly, he talks about wanting to be a good person.
Someone who is kind and compassionate and brave enough to live their truth.
And he hopes that his future self will remember the lessons he's learned from his past mistakes.
The importance of forgiveness and love and speaking up for what's right.
And to never let fear hold him back from pursuing his dreams.
It's a beautiful message of hope and self-belief.
And it reminds us that we are all works in progress.
We are constantly evolving and growing.
And it's never too late to become the best versions of ourselves.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the unsent letters,
I think the biggest takeaway is that we all have things we wish we had said.
but it's never too late to start speaking our truth.
Whether it's expressing our love or gratitude or apologizing for past mistakes.
Or simply sharing our thoughts and feelings more openly.
And maybe even writing our own unsent letters.
As a way to process our emotions and gain clarity.
So as you go about your day, I encourage you to think about your own unsent letters.
Who do you need to forgive? What words of love or appreciation have you been holding back?
And most importantly, how can you start living a life that is more aligned with your true self?
It's time to stop letting fear silence us.
And start speaking our hearts out.
Because our words have the power to heal, to inspire, and to change the world.
And maybe, just maybe, the most important letter we'll ever write is the one we are writing with our lives each and every day.
That's deep. I like that.
So what kind of letter are you writing right now?